RUFUS is definitely changing the game. What is starting to happen is that keyword, the reason why it started to become a bit obsolete is because now it's not anymore about what keyword you type, it's about how you behave in the platform, and that's the result you're gonna actually see on the platform. Right? Because I feel a lot of sellers have came to the conclusion in their own way that they think AI could fully automate a PPC, which don't get me wrong, we use tools internally that are AI driven. If we go back to the conversation of AI is very good for heavy listing. So we will do a lot of images. Now you can jump a lot of things that before would be very costly and time consuming. One of the most important tools that we use is anything that has to do around keyword research and keyword tracking. We're seeing this cost per click on Amazon getting higher and higher. So now with TikTok, you can get more exposure and also for a fraction of the cost. And sometimes you can come and experience virality. And the virality can be something that can give you a huge amount of uplift in terms of brand awareness.
Hi everyone, welcome on Expert Monday. Every Monday we interview Amazon experts who share some tips, some nuggets with you guys. And today we are with Vincenzo, who is the founder of Ecomcy, who founded Ecomcy 7 years ago. Now 70 people. You are at all the events of Amazon. I see you on YouTube, on LinkedIn, etc. I'm very glad to have you on the show. Vincenzo, how are you?
I'm doing great, Nazir. So thank you so much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure, and keen to have an insightful conversation. And hopefully, I can give, as they call in the community, some gold nuggets so they can, have a successful journey on Amazon.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. So you started Ecomcy 7 years ago. Before that, were you selling on Amazon, or what was the
Yes, so essentially I started as a seller from being a seller actually let me go a bit even more back so you know how I ended up being a seller. My background is aerospace engineering. I was working as an engineer for Rolls-Royce, and the thing is I come from a family that's always been entrepreneur. They had their own businesses, their own ventures. I grew up around that kind of environment, and I always had that kind of need of I want to have something of my own. I want to have control of my time, how much money I make. Location was a big thing. That's why I travel so much now. And effectively I started to find an opportunity that could help me achieve that kind of lifestyle, and that's where Amazon came into my life. I started selling on the side while I was having my engineering job, and thankfully over time some of those products started to become very successful. And the thing is, back then it was very easy to launch products. You could launch any products, make good money for 3 months. You would kill that product, launch another product, and you could essentially do it very fast because of how fast Amazon was growing as well, and the lack of restrictions around reviews and all the kind of things. By going to events and all of that, I saw, okay, actually, not only I can be successful in terms of doing Amazon as a seller, but why don't I try to maybe support some of these people that I'm meeting at these events? I saw they had good products, good brands, they had great ideas, but they were lacking execution. They didn't know how to do advertising. They didn't know how to launch a product. They didn't know the technicality of running a brand. And then I started to help a few of my friends in the community just as a side hustle, beyond being a seller. And then some of those people recommended me to other people, to the point that I was getting a lot of requests as a consultant. And that's where the idea of Ecomcy came to my mind, because there's actually a lot of people that would pay consultants and a team to run the brands instead. And that's how everything essentially started. At the beginning, it was only myself, but given the increased workload and the demand, that's where the team started to come into play. And yes, as you mentioned, now we're 70 people across different regions. I would say we're actually pretty much every single continent as of now. We have people in Latin America, in North America, in Europe, Middle East, China, all of that. So we're a very international team as well. We're a huge advocate when it comes to international expansion. Hopefully today I can share some of the things we see on a daily basis, which is a lot in terms of what is working and what is not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've been living in multiple countries since you were young, so that maybe influenced the way that you did your company.
Yes, I think that helped me a lot, to be honest. When I was 3, I was born in Italy, in Naples, and when I was 3, my family decides to move out of Italy because they found this business opportunity in Venezuela. And in Venezuela, back then, it was meant to be the Dubai of Latin America before everything unfortunately went how it went. And I grew up there until I was pretty much 16, 17. And then when things started to go sideways, I had to find an opportunity outside of the country, because pretty much the country was going in a very bad direction. That's where I went to the US, started doing my English studies. Back then I didn't speak English, so pretty much just I had to do all my English, my certificates and everything to apply for university. And then I did that between the US and then also Canada in Toronto. And then back then, given that my dream was always to be an astronaut, actually, that's where aerospace engineering came into the radar, because I wanted to be, an astronaut, and aerospace was the closest I could get. And that's where UK came into the radar. My uni was one of the top when it comes to that in Sheffield. And then I moved to the UK, started studying, I did my degree, my master's, I started working for Rolls-Royce, and then that's the opportunity of being an Amazon seller and consultant came. So as you can see, I've been jumping a lot, and I think that's also, even from a consultant point of view, it added a lot of insights that I'm using with my clients on a daily basis, because I'm able to understand the way people think depending on where they're coming from, where they live, how culture affects even economics and e-commerce in general. So definitely that's something that I can see our clients benefit from that as well.
Okay, and that's help connecting the brand with the right market because you dig into the culture, etc.
Exactly.
And you're focusing on PPC?
So our focus at the beginning was on only BBC, but straight after a couple of months, I decided to go into the full management approach. The reason why I did that decision is because very fast I came across the situation that, as an Amazon seller, if you only focus on PPC, that's only a part of the puzzle. There are so many other moving parts that you have to take in consideration, such as, how you're optimizing your listing, how you're optimizing your images, what is happening in the backend with your, the category listing report, just to give an example. So you really needed to figure out a system where you bring all these things together to make sure you could put the best plan forward in terms of execution. And that's why now that's what we do. We do full account management. All our clients, we do everything. We do the shippings, PPC, listing optimization, images, launching products. So effectively, these are clients that they know that what they're good at is finding products and doing the branding side of it. But when it comes to running the business, they give everything to us, and we run it for them.
Okay, and across your team of 70 people, what is the composition of the team? How many people work on PPC?
So yeah, usually the distribution is around 20 people or so. Is 20 to 30 people is the advertising side of things. That's the biggest part where we put most of our effort, because on the PPC you have to be mindful that we do Amazon, Walmart, and TikTok. So we do different marketplaces, and we also do DSP. And then the other 40 people is distributed across account managers, across or graphic designers, across our client success managers. So all the different other kind of business units that make sure that the client is happy, is getting the deliveries, jumping on a meeting, the reports. And then of course we have our C-level kind of team, or CFO, COO, CMO, I'm a myself CEO, and then of course under us we have the leaders for PPC, account management, content, and everything that has to do with operation there.
Okay. And during the last 7 days, you've seen the evolution of Amazon regarding PPC, regarding AI now, who is becoming the big thing. How was the evolution on PPC? Basically, how did you evolve in terms of strategies since the beginning to now?
Yeah, so essentially, PPC in terms of AI has been heavily impacted, because we have seen that a lot of tools have been launched into the market when it comes to that. But at the same time, that's something that being quite concerned. And the reason is because I feel a lot of sellers have came to the conclusion in the wrong way, that they think AI could fully automate a PPC, which, don't get me wrong, we use tools internally that are AI driven, and I think that you should use them. The issue is when you let AI run the full management of the PPC, because what AI does is take in consideration mainly decision making driven by KPIs. So KPIs would be conversion rate, ACOS, cost per click, And usually all the decision making is based on number, which again on paper is good because it allow you to cut expenses very fast. But at the end of the day, we know this sometimes advertising goes beyond a traditional KPIs. It goes more on the psychological side of things. Like sometimes a lot of the decisions we do as an advertisers are not driven by numbers, are driven by understanding how our consumers behave, what is the competition doing, and why we're willing to lose money even if the numbers look red. We know that's actually bringing a contribution to a brand, right? So that kind of reasoning and decision making is something that AI doesn't do. And that's why I always think AI should be there to do things that are very repetitive, like changing beats, negation of keywords, optimizing placement, things that you could definitely automate. But when it comes to designing the strategy, creating a new structure on the PPC level, and figuring out how to combine that with your efforts in terms of external traffic, your ACO, and all of that, that's something that a person has to be effectively connecting all those points together, as of now, at least. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have one example of counterintuitive decision that you've made that wasn't based on numbers actually? Like you have some numbers that should make you take this decision, and you decided otherwise because of the culture or because of the human side of things?
Yeah, so I would say a very quick example on the culture side of things, right? In terms of how we implement this, especially when we do things such as international expansion. So we're helping a lot of brands now jump from US to Europe because of what is happening with the tariffs. And what we find is that if you're not aware of the cultural impact that is gonna affect the performance of your brand and the specific country you're launching on, that can bring a huge impact on performance. And an example is a brand we have in a meeting actually on Monday. They're coming and they're launching the product across Europe. But what we found about this product is that this product is heavily affected by weather, right? Because depending on the weather and the seasonality of the weather, people will buy this product more frequently than others. So when we did the research, we found that in countries such as the UK, for example, countries such as in the Netherlands or sometimes even France, the weather might be not as good as in countries such as Italy and Spain, or Germany. So that's why we had to reverse engineer what is the seasonality looking like, how we distribute our inventory proactively across this country, how do we make sure the images on each country is tailored toward the culture of the activities throughout these weather conditions, and how that will convey the need to use this product. So that was a very clear example of how, by we doing this exercise, and which we're already implementing, we can see a huge impact on how the brand is being perceived compared to other brands that were selling the same, that they're just copy pasting and not taking consideration the human factor. So that's why if you try to do all this by AI most likely what it's going to do is going to translate the listings, it's going to do the images in different language, but it's not going to fully tailor the content and the strategy at the country level based on the actual understanding of that community as a whole, right? So it's very important you have a human factor. So yeah.
No, okay, I understand. And how do you use tools in your agency, and which tool do you use?
So it's effectively one of the most important tools that we use is anything that has to do around keyword research and keyword tracking, because that's the most important indicator of, first of all, what is happening in terms of the performance that we're achieving. Are we actually improving on market share control? Is our ranking improving or not? And from there, be able to get also insights in terms of how we keep optimizing our PPC and our listings. So for that, we use Data Dive and Helium 10. Usually the reason why we use both is depending on the situation and the type of product, and on top of that, as a validation metric, we try to check among both to make sure that we can come into kind of a baseline that is as accurate as possible. And then from a report perspective, we actually use a tool called Triffing, where I'm actually also an investor in that tool. So this is a tool that allows to understand profitability from top to bottom, understanding where the money is coming from, where the money is going out, understanding also from week to week how these metrics are changing at the expense level. And then this is a very good way for us to understand what is the real performance of the brand, depending on the actions that we're implementing, and how we can do certain changes to improve performance. In fact, on this reporting tool, Triffing, we also adding AI. So now with AI, we're able to tell our clients if, let's say, we meet on a weekly basis and performance is in red, run the AI will check all the metrics of all the account, and it will say, okay, the reason why performance is in red is because we saw this async drop conversion, this async drop organic ranking, and we have to take this action. So now we're able to point the road cause as soon as possible, which before sometimes the conversation could be a bit trivial. Um, and the final tool that we use is on the images side of things. So for images, of course, we use ChatGPT, Midjourney, Ecom10 is a very good one. So yeah, at the end of the day, I would say with tools I'm a huge advocate with tools. They're definitely needed. Just be mindful that it's a matter of trying them all and try to find the middle ground of which one is the most effective for you. Yeah.
Okay. If you focus on the first tool you are using regarding keywords, some people say that keywords are dead. Like with Rufus now, we will have to optimize for Rufus. What do you think about it?
Yeah. So when it comes to keywords, there's a couple of things. So Rufus is definitely changing the game because what we're seeing is a lot of the behavior that is happening on Amazon is changing towards audiences. It's changing towards how people behave on the platform based on what they have shopped in the past, what kind of lifestyle, their gender, their location, their age, all the information behind the actual consumers. So what is starting to happen is that keyword, the reason why it started to become a bit obsolete is because now it's not anymore about what keyword you type. It's about how you behave in the platform. And that's the result you're going to actually see on the platform, right? That's why it's very important now that everything that's done in terms of listing optimization, image optimization is always tailored toward what you want the system to read out of that in terms of connecting you to a specific avatar. For example, let's say you're selling a supplement that's for people over 50 to 70. I know your images is people that are in their 20s. The algorithm is going to get confused and it's going to think that because all your lifestyle images is young people, your supplement is for young people. And when a person over 50 is typing and engaging with Rufus, can you recommend me a supplement for this? And Rufus cannot detect through your images and actually the sentiment of text that you actually convey a message of people over 50 is not going to recommend your product. That's why now the conversation is not anymore about having the right keywords, but also making sure what you transmit through your images and text is actually connected with the semantic meaning of the need that you want the product to fulfill. Right. So that's where Rufus becomes super important. And that's why we essentially what we do is we also make sure we optimize images and listings that are Rufus proof. And we use that using Amazon Recognition and Amazon Comprehend, which are tools of AWS, which is essentially the tools that are the engine behind Rufus. Yeah.
Okay, so you design the images and then you check that with Amazon Recognition to see what Amazon will read out of that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And regarding images, I've seen a lot of generated images with AI recently, stunning images for Amazon. Have you guys started to work with that with AI to generate images or?
Yeah, so we use AI to generate images, especially when, let's say, we're on a budget, right? And let's say we're trying to be as effective as possible with the images that we do for listing, A plus content and everything. We sometimes cannot do and make a shooting only for a specific product, also because of time constraints. So that's where we become very strategic. And effectively, what we do is we say, okay, we're going to create a bunch of images that are going to be a person holding a bottle, or a person at the gym, or a person at the park. And then our team will do the editing on top of those images to make it effectively compliant with what the product and the brand has to transmit. So what I'm trying to say with this is, if we go back to the conversation of AI is very good for heavy listing. So we will do a lot of images, stock images, images that are kind of generic, but then you still will need the human factor to add the text over it, the logo, Photoshop the image. But now you can jump a lot of things that before would be very costly and time consuming, which is having to find a place to do the photography, finding the model, finding the scenes. Now you can do that with AI.
And most of the value also is on finding the right persona to address with your product. You are talking about addressing a persona. Let's say you're selling supplement brand and you address it to young people, but you also want old people to find it. How do you address multiple customer with your listing?
Yeah, so usually what we try to do is let's say you are targeting different age groups with the same product. The best advice I can give you is try to, if possible, come across different variations, because if you don't, it's going to be very difficult for you to build a meaningful connection with only one listing across multiple age groups. So then what you could do, and this is very common, is something called product cloning. So you can have the same product, just different label, one that's targeted toward older people, one that's targeted toward younger people. You can do the same with images, and that could be a very easy way for you to effectively navigate, the complexity of, actually, I need to target multiple genders, multiple age groups, multiple avatar. So you can do product cloning and just reflect the actual avatar throughout images and throughout, different kind of elements that will convey what that specific avatar wants to say. Yeah.
So in that case, you will have multiple product for the same one, like multiple ASIN also.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Okay.
That's usually the best thing as well, because remember, by having multiple variations, also you can benefit from doing buying for all these different variations, and also you can have them split, and you can control the same keyword from multiple A's in front, so you can control more real estate in Patreon.
Okay, so you recommend to clone the product and put that into multiple variation inside the same parent agent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. And previously you talked about TikTok. Now there is TikTok Shop who is killing it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so TikTok Shop is a super good tool when it comes to effectively giving you the opportunity to figure out how you can navigate the situation where cost per click is very high, which is very high, right? We're seeing this cost per click on Amazon getting higher and higher. So now with TikTok, you can get more exposure. And also for a fraction of the cost, and sometimes you can come and experience virality, and the virality can be something that can give you a huge amount of uplift in terms of brand awareness. That is key to increase your market share control. So TikTok is something that, if you definitely have the budget, I would explore, because if you work with the right influencers, they can give you a snowball effect that can be very significant for the performance of the overall brand. Yeah,
And you're working also on TikTok Shop with your customers.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, 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 got it. And you said that a lot of US sellers are now selling in Europe because of the tariff. How do you adapt to that, to the tariff and the warfare?
Yeah, so I mean, now with the tariff, we are seeing a big transition of people trying to not rely too much on the states, because I mean, we don't know what is going to happen in the coming months and years. So people is trying to diversify. So Europe is a very good alternative, because first of all, the momentum that is having in terms of growth is very fast. We're seeing countries such as the UK and Germany having a significant uplift in search volumes and revenue across the board. And on top of that, you're able to essentially dodge the tariff situation. But the other thing that is very, very interesting as a conversation is that what you're also gonna find is that with Europe, you're able to give your product a second opportunity, in the sense that sometimes US, you're gonna reach kind of plateau in terms of how much revenue you can do, what kind of reach you can achieve with the current budget that you have at your disposal. But Europe, especially if you come with a listing that already has a lot of reviews and exposure, you can hit the ground running very fast, because competition is much much lower. Also, the overall kind of expertise in Europe is much lower, so there are not as many people that is very strategic as in the US, and you can enter the market very strong. So it's been a good alternative already for some of our brands. And just as an advice for the tariff, something I would start doing as well is try to look at alternatives of manufacturing, such as Vietnam, Mexico,
Okay,
Indonesia, India. It's been some good alternatives for us already. Yeah.
okay, 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 got it. And regarding Ecomcy, you are now 70 people. What is the goal next? What are your plans for the future?
I mean, for us, the goal is, I always say, people, when when I tell them where we are, and the size, people say, oh, okay, like, you guys are already very big. Like, what is the next thing? And for me, I always feel that we're just getting started. Like, the goal for Ecomcy really in the next 5 years is we really want to become a well-known enterprise kind of agency, in the sense that we just want to keep working with bigger and bigger brands, to give them an opportunity to effectively tap into as many markets as possible with the most effective approach, which is where we come into action. And so yeah, we say 1 year from now the goal is, I mean, my goal every year is to double. So hopefully next year 120, 140 people. I think more than doubling the amount of people is doubling the amount of reach that we have, and that's where we're trying to tap into bigger brands that we can definitely have a huge impact on them, because the bigger the brand, smaller things are more impactful. So that's why we're trying to create a name for ourselves. Yeah.
And that's why we can see you everywhere, like in China, in
Yeah.
all the Amazon events, etc.
Yes. Yeah. The goal for me is I want to be as reachable as possible. I want to show that, I'm there um, to show who we are, why you should trust us, and to also show my commitment in the game. And I think being there in person, shaking hands, is definitely making a huge difference. And also is helping us create a name that is definitely making a lot of good noise.
How can we reach you?
So the way you can reach me is very fast, in the sense that you can find me, as you mentioned, in all the social media. So if you put Vincenzo Toscano, you're gonna find me instantly. And also ecomcy.com is our website where you can reach out and book a free consultation with our team.
Okay.
For me, it's always a pleasure to jump on a call, even if there is nothing that we can do for you right now. I still believe in creating relationships that last. So let's have a call. Let's see where you are, where you're struggling, and hopefully we can add value to you down the line. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks for being on the show, Vincenzo. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Nasif. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Looking forward to see you in London soon. Okay.
See you soon. Bye.
See ya. Bye.